In this episode, we're going to focus on the people side of incident response in a way that makes it feel concrete and teachable. How you establish an incident response team, IRT, with clear roles, real authority, and reliable coverage. Beginners sometimes imagine that an incident response team is just whoever happens to be available when something goes wrong. But that approach creates slow decisions and inconsistent actions, especially during stressful events. A real IRT is a designed capability, meaning the organization deliberately decides who participates, what each person is responsible for, what decisions they are allowed to make, and how the team stays available across time, vacations, and emergencies. When roles and authority are unclear, people hesitate, actions conflict, and communication becomes chaotic, which can increase impact even if the technical work is strong. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain what makes an IRT effective, why authority matters as much as skill, and how coverage turns a team into a dependable program instead of a hopeful plan. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. The idea of an IRT begins with a simple question that has a surprisingly complex answer. When something goes wrong, who is responsible for driving the response from confusion to control? In many organizations, multiple teams have pieces of the answer, such as security monitoring, system operations, application owners, and leadership, but without a defined team structure, these groups can pull in different directions. Establishing an IRT is the act of creating a clear center of gravity, a group that owns the response process even when technical work is distributed. This does not mean the IRT does everything hands-on, because hands-on work often belongs to specialized teams, but it does mean the IRT coordinates, prioritizes, escalates, and maintains the incident narrative. Beginners sometimes assume coordination is secondary to technical troubleshooting, but coordination is what prevents duplicated work, missed steps, and evidence loss. When you establish the IRT thoughtfully, you create predictable response behavior, which makes incidents less disruptive even when they are serious. Predictability is not bureaucracy. It is how you protect time and reduce harm. A strong IRT starts with role clarity, because role clarity is what turns a group of skilled people into a team that can move fast under pressure. Roles define responsibilities such as incident leadership, technical investigation, containment execution, evidence stewardship, and communication coordination. Even if one person can do multiple roles in a smaller organization, the roles still need to exist conceptually so that nothing critical is forgotten. Role clarity matters because incidents are full of moments where someone must decide, someone must act, and someone must record, and those moments are too frequent to handle through casual conversation. When roles are unclear, two people may assume the other is handling a task, or two people may do the same task in conflicting ways, both of which waste time. Beginners often picture roles as job titles, but roles are better understood as responsibilities that must be filled, regardless of titles. When the roles are defined clearly, handoffs become smoother and stress becomes more manageable. Incident leadership is the role that keeps momentum, and it is often the most misunderstood because people assume the leader must be the most technical person in the room. The incident lead is primarily responsible for driving the process, maintaining a shared understanding of what is happening, and making sure decisions are made at the right time. This person facilitates, sets priorities, and ensures that the response remains aligned to severity and risk tolerance, rather than letting the team drift into endless investigation without action. The incident lead also manages trade-offs, such as balancing containment speed with service continuity, and ensures that containment actions are coordinated rather than impulsive. Beginners sometimes underestimate how much value comes from a leader who can keep the story coherent, because coherence reduces debate and prevents the incident from splintering into unrelated tasks. A strong leader also protects the team from distraction by organizing communication and shielding technical responders from constant interruptions. When leadership is defined, the response feels guided instead of improvised. Technical investigation roles should be defined with enough precision that the team knows who is responsible for which parts of the environment and which kinds of evidence. Investigation might involve identity activity, system behavior, network patterns, data access, or application-level actions, and each area often maps to different expertise and different sources of evidence. In cloud-heavy environments, investigation can also require understanding how services and accounts are structured, how logs are collected, and where visibility gaps might exist. A common beginner misunderstanding is believing that investigation is a single activity performed by one person, but real incidents often require parallel investigation threads to reduce uncertainty quickly. These threads must still be coordinated, because parallel work can produce contradictory conclusions if everyone uses different assumptions. Role clarity ensures that each investigator knows their scope, their expected outputs, and how to feed findings back into the case narrative. When investigation roles are clear, the team can expand coverage without expanding confusion. Containment and recovery roles are different from investigation roles, and treating them as distinct responsibilities improves both speed and safety. Containment is about reducing harm now, such as limiting access, isolating affected components, or preventing further spread, while recovery is about restoring normal operations and trust in the system. These roles often require operational authority and deep knowledge of the environment, because containment actions can affect service availability and can create side effects if executed carelessly. Beginners sometimes assume containment is simply turning things off, but containment can be subtle, like narrowing access scope, limiting risky pathways, or placing guardrails while investigation continues. Recovery also requires careful validation, because restoring service is not the same as restoring trust, and an environment can be functioning while still compromised or still misconfigured. When the IRT defines who can execute containment and recovery actions, it prevents accidental disruption and prevents delays caused by unclear decision rights. Distinct roles encourage a healthy balance between protecting evidence and protecting service continuity. Evidence stewardship is a role that is easy to ignore until the organization needs a reliable timeline, a defensible explanation, or a clear understanding of root cause. Evidence stewardship means someone is responsible for ensuring that key observations are preserved, that sources are documented, and that response actions are recorded in a way that keeps the narrative trustworthy. In practice, this includes maintaining the case record, updating the timeline, capturing key decisions, and ensuring that containment actions do not erase the information needed for later analysis. Beginners often assume everyone will naturally document what they do, but during a stressful incident, people act first and write later, and later often becomes never. A dedicated evidence mindset helps the team preserve clarity even when pace is high. This role is also a bridge to post-incident learning, because a well-kept record makes it easier to identify what worked, what failed, and what must be improved. When evidence stewardship is defined and respected, the organization can learn without guessing and can communicate without speculation. Communication roles are central to response effectiveness because incidents create a vacuum of information, and vacuums get filled with assumptions. The IRT needs a defined communication function that produces consistent updates, routes information to the right stakeholders, and maintains discipline about what is known versus what is still being confirmed. This includes internal communication to technical owners and leadership, as well as coordination with external dependencies such as vendors and partners when they are involved in the incident path. Beginners sometimes assume communication is just sending updates, but effective communication is more like traffic control, preventing contradictory messages and ensuring that decisions are made with the same underlying facts. Communication roles also protect the technical team by reducing interruptions, because without a communication channel, every stakeholder will attempt to reach the investigators directly. The communication function can also prepare leadership for potential decisions, such as whether to accept short-term disruption for containment or whether to escalate to additional resources. When communication is structured, the incident stays calmer and the team retains momentum. Authority is the next major topic, because a team without authority is like a fire department that can only file reports. Authority means the IRT has permission to take or initiate protective actions within defined boundaries, especially when time matters. These boundaries must be explicit because containment can affect critical services, and organizations need to decide in advance which actions can be taken immediately and which actions require approval. Authority also includes the right to escalate, meaning the team knows exactly who can approve higher impact actions and how to reach them quickly. Beginners often assume authority will appear automatically during an emergency, but in real organizations, uncertainty about authority is one of the most common sources of delay. Authority must also include accountability, because actions taken during an incident must be explainable later, and the team needs to know that responsible action is supported, not punished. When authority is documented and practiced, responders act with confidence instead of hesitation. Coverage is the third pillar, and coverage is what turns a team into a dependable capability rather than a daytime-only promise. Incidents do not wait for convenient hours, and even a small delay can be costly when attackers move quickly or when services are disrupted. Coverage includes deciding who is available when, how on-call escalation works, and how knowledge is maintained so response quality does not depend on a single person. Beginners sometimes assume coverage means having many people, but coverage can also mean designing a tiered approach where initial triage is always available and deeper expertise is reachable quickly when needed. Coverage also includes ensuring that critical roles are backed up because vacations, illness, and competing emergencies are normal realities. Without backups, the organization has hidden single points of failure in its response capability. A strong IRT design treats coverage as an engineering problem with constraints, not as a heroic expectation. Coverage must also address continuity of understanding, because incidents often last longer than a single shift or a single day. This is where case management discipline and handoff practices become part of the team design, not an optional extra. The team needs a consistent way to transfer the current hypothesis, the most important evidence, the actions taken, and the next tasks so that momentum is not lost during transitions. Beginners sometimes assume a handoff is a short verbal conversation, but verbal handoffs are fragile because they depend on memory and can omit critical details under stress. A written, structured handoff anchored in the case record keeps the incident coherent across time and reduces the chance that the team repeats work or misses a key clue. Continuity also supports stakeholder trust, because leaders become frustrated when the story changes drastically with each shift. When coverage includes continuity practices, the organization experiences response as a steady process rather than a series of disconnected bursts of activity. Training and rehearsal are necessary for roles, authority, and coverage to work in real incidents, because knowing the plan is different from executing the plan under pressure. The IRT should practice the decision paths it expects to follow, including escalation, containment trade-offs, evidence discipline, and communication flow. These rehearsals reveal gaps that are hard to see in comm planning sessions, such as unclear authority boundaries or unrealistic expectations about who can be reached quickly. Training also ensures that new team members learn not just the theory of incident response, but the organization's specific way of operating, including severity definitions and communication expectations. Beginners sometimes view practice as extra work, but practice is what reduces mistakes when mistakes are most expensive. Practice also improves speed because people do not have to invent coordination in the moment. They already know who does what and how decisions are made. When training is continuous, coverage becomes more meaningful because more people can step into roles confidently. Building an IRT also requires a thoughtful relationship with other operational teams, because the incident response team is not meant to replace system owners, application owners, or service reliability functions. Instead, the IRT provides a coordination layer that helps those teams act quickly and consistently during security-relevant events. This relationship should be defined so system owners know what support to expect and what responsibilities remain theirs, especially for containment actions that require deep knowledge of service behavior. In cloud environments, the relationship often includes understanding shared responsibility boundaries, where some actions are performed by the organization and some are performed by the provider, and the IRT needs clear paths for engaging provider support. Beginners sometimes assume the incident team should be able to fix everything, but that expectation can create conflict and delay because expertise is distributed for good reasons. A better model is collaborative, where the IRT drives the process and ensures evidence and decisions are coherent, while technical owners execute specific actions. When this collaboration is designed in advance, incidents are less chaotic. The team also needs a clear approach to scaling, because incidents vary from minor, localized events to complex, multi-system crises. Scaling is about adding the right people at the right time without overwhelming the response with unnecessary voices. A small event might be handled by a minimal set of roles, while a larger event might require bringing in additional investigators, specialized engineers, legal and privacy advisors, and leadership decision-makers. Scaling decisions should be guided by severity, potential impact, and uncertainty, and the IRT should be able to expand and contract intentionally as the situation evolves. Beginners sometimes think scaling means calling everyone immediately, but calling everyone can slow response by creating communication overload. The better practice is to escalate in layers, bringing in expertise when evidence suggests it is needed and when the potential outcomes justify it. When scaling is defined, the organization avoids both extremes of under-response and over-response. A final design principle is that the IRT should be measurable and improvable, which means the team's structure and practices should produce evidence about whether it is working. This evidence can include timeliness of triage, timeliness of escalation, consistency of communication, quality of case records, and the organization's ability to contain incidents before they become high impact. The goal is not to score people, but to learn whether the designed roles, authority boundaries, and coverage model actually produce the outcomes the organization expects. If delays happen repeatedly at the same decision points, that is a signal that authority is unclear or escalation paths are too slow. If investigations repeatedly lose key evidence, that is a signal that evidence stewardship needs strengthening or that logging retention and collection practices need improvement. If handoffs repeatedly restart the investigation, that is a signal that continuity practices are insufficient. When the IRT is measured thoughtfully, it becomes stronger over time instead of repeating the same failures. To conclude, establishing an IRT with roles, authority, and coverage is about designing a response capability that works consistently under stress, not hoping that skilled individuals will improvise perfectly every time. Clear roles ensure that leadership, investigation, containment, evidence stewardship, and communication are all owned responsibilities rather than accidental tasks. Clear authority ensures the team can act quickly within defined boundaries, escalate decisions reliably, and avoid dangerous hesitation when time matters most. Reliable coverage ensures response is available when incidents occur and that continuity practices preserve momentum across shifts, days, and staffing changes. When training, collaboration, scaling, and measurement are built into the team design, incident response becomes a dependable organizational function rather than a heroic scramble. If you can explain how an IRT is structured, why authority boundaries matter, and how coverage and continuity keep response coherent, you have a practical understanding of what makes incident response effective in real environments.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.